Hello, Matrix, and welcome to it. This is Learn Extra with me, Abram, and John. We're here to learn more and learn extra on maths literacy. John, how are you?
I'm really well. Guys, welcome to Maths Literacy. You might be expecting to see Peter, but where's Peter? Peter's not here. He's on holiday. He's going on a trip. We'll talk about that a little later. Abram, great to be with you again.
Yeah, same here, John. I see you saying Peter, and you are saying Peter.
I'm not
So,
Peter.
you know
I'm John. You know that.
Well,
even though I might look a bit like Peter.
That's where your hand was pointing at me, but no, I didn't say anything.
Okay.
What are we doing today?
Okay, so today we're talking about scale, and particularly dealing with scale in terms of plans. Let's make sure we can get this right, because this is not a difficult thing. You've been probably doing it since grade 10, but we've got some great questions coming up, and I hope you'll be interested to see how we do those.
Nice one. Well, mine it is to get you guys started. We have the link notes posted on facebook.com/learnextra. Get on them, download them, or view them. Those are the two options available for you guys. You'll see on the links, we also have the Test Yourself link, where if you answer those questions correctly, you get a chance of winning this awesome Casio calculator. How cool is that? You need this. Even when you're doing Maths Lit, it's not going to help you on Maths Lit only, even on other subjects. So guys, get entering right now and answer the Test Yourself questions. But it doesn't end there. If you missed any of our notes, go to learn.mindset.co.za. We also have a schedule there for you guys who've been asking when is what's playing. So guys, check it out.
Great. Guys, remember you need to check on the schedule for Learn Extra Live. So there's a drop-down menu under Learn Extra, look for the live, scroll down, you'll find the schedule there. It's the best way to get the notes. Now, let's talk about scale and what we're going to do. We're going to start off by revising different types of scale. So there are different types of scale, and then we're going to work with plans that are drawn to scale. And when we say we work with plans, we're going to find out how big something is on the plan and how big it's in real life. Given how big something is in real life, and compare it to something that's on the plan, say what is the scale. So there are a number of ways of asking questions. But before we get into that, let me give you something practical to think about. Now, Abram, I believe you're a bit of an artist.
Yes.
You like sketching and you like drawing.
Yes.
Okay. Now, with art, you need to have something called perspective. Is that right? Where you make sure that things are in proportion to each other. So you don't draw a stick figure with a big head and little feet, or little hand, unless you're trying to draw a caricature of somebody who needs to go for a shower. Then you might want to draw the head a bit bigger. But we don't generally draw that. If we're drawing a nice sketch, we keep it in proportion.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah?
Yes.
So part of that idea is having the right scale. Because you might only have a little piece of paper, but you've got this big person to draw, or you might have a person who stands this high, and you might want to make a statue that is 9 meters high. So you have to change the position. So here's the challenge question. Peter and his family, they got onto a plane, they boarded a plane, and they're off to Disneyland. So there they are, and they flew in a Boeing 777. Now, what I thought would be quite fun is for us to look at this plane. It has given the following dimensions on the Boeing website. It tells us that the wingspan is 63.7 meters. And I just want to clarify, that's from the tip of one wing. So there's the plane, and excuse my drawing. There's the body. So from the tip of the one wing, from this side all the way through to the other side, that's 67 meters. From the overall length, so from the tail right at the back to the nose, that is also 63.7 meters. And then the tail height from the ground to the top of the tail is 18.5 meters. And then it gives you some other interesting data. Tells you that the interior width is only 5.96 meters. I was going to ask how many times Peter could sort of lie down next to himself inside that. Wouldn't be too many, I don't think. But, you know, given his size, we do recognize that he's trying to do something about that. The next thing is the diameter of the whole fuselage is 6,19. So let's have a look at now at the next part of the question. It says here, what scale should you use if you want to draw a cross section of the plan of the aeroplane so it will fit on an A4 piece of paper? So here's my A4 piece of paper, and I want to draw the cross section. So what does that mean? It means that I want to take a slice through along that white line from wingtip to wingtip through the middle, and I want to draw the picture. So the picture is going to look something like this. It's going to be that, the round diameter for the fuselage, and there's the wing. And what we know, that's the picture that we're trying to draw. What we know is that from this position to that position over there, we're given is the wingspan, the whole length, 63,7 meters. 63,7 meters. And what I want you to be able to do is to take that drawing and fit it onto an A4 sheet of paper. Now, I've given you the dimensions, and the dimensions of the A4 sheet of paper are 210 millimeters by 297 millimeters. You've got to decide, are you going to draw it that way or that way? You want the drawing to be as big as possible, but I would suggest you draw it this way so that you can fit it all in, and you want it to be as big as possible. So it mustn't just be a tiny little scribble in the middle of the page. It must be almost covering the whole page. What's the scale? So that's the question for you to think about. Cool one, eh?
A very cool one. And I know the
So
answer.
I just need to also let you know that the seat width on this plane is only 17 inches. So I don't know how Peter managed to fit into that seat, 17 inches, but somehow I think he might have for something like 12 hours. Anyway, shall we move on? And let's not worry too much about Peter anymore. Have a look here, starting with building plans. And we recognize the first thing is that plans are drawn from different points of view. And the most common point of view is the aerial view, looking down from the top. And so here I've drawn for you, taken from the Macmillan textbook, a picture of a house, gives you the directions, shows you that this is the north face, this is the south face, this is the west and the east. Simple little house, but it's looking down from the top. What it doesn't tell you, it doesn't give you a scale. There's no scale on this. So we don't know. Is this a massive house? Is this like that you've got to shout down the corridor to the kitchen? Or is it a tiny little box house that you can more or less stretch your arms out and touch the walls? We don't know. But the point of this is that it's giving you the aerial view. Now, that's not the only view that you can get. You can also get what we call the elevation. So this is looking from the side. And so you can see that this is this view from side A, this is the view from side B, and we can carry on to look at side C and side D. And what's important is that they can ask you to take the plan, and they can ask you to take the elevation and to match the sides together. So that's a little bit of a trick. Which side are we looking at? Count the windows, count the doors, count everything else. Make sure that you've got the right viewpoint. Just by the way, we use some specific symbols to represent things. That's not the right color to use, so let's just undo that, and let's choose one of these colors. That icon represents a door. So whenever we get this sort of thing, it's saying that's a door. This represents a window. Usually there's a key that tells you that. So you can see on this west side of the house, there are 3 windows and there are no doors. So if we go back to here, then we can say, there are 3 windows, so that must be the west wall. And we can match them like that. Look at the diagram in its different viewpoints and match the features. It's an important exercise, not one that we need to focus on too much tonight because we're dealing with scale. So let's get into the next part, which is a plan is pretty useless because it doesn't tell you anything unless it's got a scale. So that drawing that I gave you, if I gave that to a builder and told him to go build it, he could take little Lego blocks and build it, and I'd have to be satisfied. Or he could build me a mansion that I can't even afford. So that's why we need a scale. A scale tells us exactly how big it is. Take something from the real world and puts it onto a representation that we can measure the dimensions on the drawing and match them to what they are in the real side. So that's how it works. There are 2 different types. The scale of a model or a diagram indicates the relationship between the size of the area in reality to the size of the image or the drawing. So the plan, the drawing on the plan. There are 2 scales. The one is represented as a ratio. It's a number scale. It's probably the most common. And what it tells you, it's a ratio of the dimensions of the image, that comes first, to the actual dimensions. So if I say 1 to 50,000, the 1 represents what's on the map or on the plan. 50,000 represents what's in the real world. Okay, so that's quite a big scale. It's taking a very big thing and making it very small onto a piece of paper. If it said 1 to 20, then the drawing is going to be very big, and it's going to be only 20 times smaller than the real thing. So bear that in mind. The other way of doing it, which is really very useful and very interesting, is that we get things called bar scales. So a bar scale makes it easy to estimate the distance between 2 points on a map or a plan. It's a picture, so we can see it, and we can basically use a thumb or do something. There's another thing that's really nice about bar scales, is because if you take a photocopy of a map or a plan with a bar scale on it, it doesn't matter if you enlarge it or you reduce it. The bar expands and reduces by the same amount. Let me show you what I mean. If I take that bar scale there, and this is saying this distance from this position to that position over there is representing 4 kilometers. Now watch what I'm going to do, and I hope it works for me. That green line represents 4 kilometers. If I now take my arrow and I expand it, now can you see that that green line is just bigger than on the scale of 2 kilometers. In fact, because I've expanded it, this now represents 4 kilometers. But if I was doing the same expansion or reduction to the scale, I would be able to see exactly how big something was. So even if the drawing got really small, I'd still be able to measure all 4 kilometer units. So let me just do that because I'm having fun with this function. If I made it really small, I'd be able to say, hold on guys, I know that because the bar scale is that distance there is representing 4 kilometers. So I could reduce, magnify, enlarge, and I'd be able to always measure the scale accurately. Okay, Abram, I think that's about it before we get on to the questions. So shall we go for a break?
Yes, we should, John. And during this break, guys, you do have the challenge question, and if you're struggling, feel free to give us your questions because we're here to help you guys. We're on facebook.com/LearnExtra, and on Twitter, follow us at LearnExtra. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back, Mindsetters. Now you've just seen the promo for the water game competition. Remember the closing date, it's the 18th of August, and there's some really good and great prizes to be won. All you need to do is to register and play on www.watergame.co.za. It's all about creating an awareness on the use of water. So guys, let's learn and play at the same time.
And Abram, you know what? I was just checking out the site. There are some people that are way in front, but that doesn't mean that you can't get a chance to catch up. I know it's just until Monday, but it's a really fun game, and it will teach you a whole lot about making important decisions. And I really recommend that you get onto that water game, because the chances of you winning something are really great. Because unfortunately, not that many people have started to actually play. So get on. Don't have a hassle. If you're struggling with the technology, get onto a computer, download the game. It might take a bit of time to load, but once you get playing, it doesn't take long, and you can play multiple chances. And the more times you play, the more chances you've got of winning airtime, winning lucky prizes, a whole lot, and maybe you'll get enough of a score to match the person that's right at the top of the leaderboard.
I wonder if I'm gonna win, because I'm also playing, and
Are
it's
you
very
playing?
addictive.
It's addictive, eh?
Yeah. I hope to win something. If I do win, then I win.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, you're all winners tonight, so let's get going with this story about scale. And I really want you to win on scale, because it comes up every year somewhere, either in paper 1 or paper 2, that you've got to interpret a map scale or a plan scale. So let's clear out the cobwebs. Let's make sure we've got a method to solve this particular issue. We're focusing on it to help you in your coming exams. So here's the first question. It tells us, first of all, on a plan, the length of a wall measured 4,5 centimeters. Calculate the actual length of the wall if the scale of the plan is, and they give us a whole lot of things. So you recognize these scales are different. What I want you to do, just as a thought, is think about it and say, on which one of these scales is the wall going to be bigger or smaller? Just have a gut feel. Well, Abram, I tell you what, let's just do a little poll here. What do you think? If we know the reading is 4,5 meters, 4,5 centimeters. If the scale is 1 to 250, or if it's 1 to 1,500, which wall is actually going to be bigger?
It's the C one.
You think so?
Yes.
Are you sure?
I think so.
Okay, so the money's on C. Let's see if Abram's right, okay? Because we need to interpret what they're saying. It says 1 centimeter on the map is equivalent to 250 centimeters on the ground, where this one is saying 1 centimeter on the map is equivalent to, or represents, 1,500 centimeters on the ground. Now, notice I used centimeters here, and I used centimeters in both cases. You need to know that in a ratio, if we're measuring meters, then the other one must be meters. If the one is centimeters, then the other must be centimeters. And they sometimes ask you to do a conversion as well. So bear that in mind. So how are we going to do it? I'm going to do the first one, and we're going to have a look and see. So the first one, I'm going to start with the scale is 1 to 250. And they tell us that the reading on the map is 5,4. That's the reading on the map. And we don't know what this answer is. We don't know what that is. So here's how I like to do it. And I want you to get a strategy. Don't get confused, bigger, smaller, multiply, divide. Just get a simple way that you can't get confused and you can't forget. So my way is to write down the scale, and I learned this from Peter, and underneath the thing that's saying the map, the thing that you start with, there'll be the 1. And you say to yourself, what did I do to 1 to get to 4,5? Well, that's not difficult to work out. To take 1 and get 4,5, I must have multiplied it by 4,5. 1 times 4,5 is 4,5. So how am I going to get to this unknown? What I do to the one side of a ratio, I must do to the other. So to get my missing answer here, I must do exactly the same. I must multiply by 4,5. Now, I'm not going to try and do that in my head. I'm going to say to myself, get my calculator out, clear the calculator, and let's start off by writing 250. And I'm going to do what it tells me. Multiply by 5,4. That was the number of centimeters that was on the map. So I'm going to multiply 250 by 5,4, and that gives me an answer of 1350. 1350. Now, guys, that's 1350 centimeters. So I started with a certain amount. I started with 5,4 centimeters, and I've ended up with 1,350 centimeters. So if I wanted to change that to meters, how would I do it? I would divide by 1,000, and I would say, well, that's equal to 1,3. Not by, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't divide by 1,000, would I? Abram, you're sleeping there. Correct me. Divide by 100. So it would be 13,50 meters. Remember, centimeters to meters, you divide by 100. Why? Because there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So 50 centimeters, if it gets to 99, it must become a meter. So look, there's the 50 centimeters. And if I move it up, then this must be reading a meter. So it's 13,50 meters. That's not a small wall, okay? Notice the scale was 1 to 250. Let's pick up the next scale. I'm not going to do the middle one. I'm going to do the last one, number C. And see how much bigger that is. Look at the scale. It's 1 to 1,500. So what am I going to do? Number C. I'm going to say 1 is to 1,500. And I want to know what is 4,5 centimeters on that scale going to represent. Look, I'm doing exactly the same process. I'm doing this deliberately. Multiply by 5,4. What am I going to do on this side? I must multiply by 5,4. Do it on the calculator. Clear that one. So 1,500 multiplied by 5,4. Now notice, this is 8,100 centimeters. 8,100 centimeters. So if I divide by 100, I'd get 81 meters. Okay? If I divide it by, so is that right? No, what would it be? Would it be 81? Yeah, am I right?
Yes, you're right.
If I divide by 1,000, it would be 0,8. Hey, 1,000. Guys, what am I doing here? Centimeters to, that's right, I've got lost along the way. So let's just be careful. If we divide this by 100, I'm going to get meters, 81 meters. I don't want to divide that by anything else. If I wanted to go to a bigger unit, like a kilometer, I'd have to divide the meters by 1,000, okay, to get it into kilometers. But it doesn't ask me to do that, and that was just an extra bit. What I want you to now have a look at is look at the difference between, and this is just something interesting, and it's not something that we really need to worry about too much, but I just thought it was fun to look at. That was 13,5 meters. This one was 81 meters. Let's take the 81 meters, and divide it by 13,5 meters. Let's divide it by 13,5. 13,5. And what do we get? We get a factor of 6. Okay? Now, what's that saying to me? Hold on. Look at this. Look at this. If we take 250, which was my initial scale, that bit there, 250, and we take the 1,500, guess what? If I take 1,500 and I divide it by 250, what do you think the answer is going to be?
Nothing.
No, it's not going to be nothing.
If, oh,
1,500 divided by 250, it's going to be the same answers we got just now. 6. Okay, the thing that we measured was 6 times bigger on that bigger scale because the scale is 6 times bigger. Okay, so bear that in mind. So here's an interesting idea. We missed out number B, and some of you will be saying, but he didn't give the answer to number B. What's the factor difference? How much does 250 go into 500? Well, it goes twice. So what do you think the answer is going to be? Well, the answer is going to be that 13,5 times 2, which is, I must use my calculator, so 13,5 times 2 is equal to 27. So the answer for number B is 27 meters. You check it out and see if I'm right, but I'm pretty sure I am. Guys, the most important thing is you get the method going. Okay, now let's move on to a real practical problem. I love these practical problems. I'm not a very good handyman, but I like to be able to see what's going on if I'm doing any renovations. Don't often do them. Here's a plan of a kitchen, and I think Peter's wife wants him to renovate the kitchen at the moment, and he's putting it off. That's why he went to Disneyland. So it tells us that all the doors are 90 centimeters wide. So there's a door, and I'm going to put that as 0,9 because it's 90 centimeters wide. And that one is also 0,9. And that helps me to sort out what the drawing's all about. So the first thing is we've got to do is to calculate the length of A. And guys, this is not difficult, but we're just simply reading off a scale map. We're reading off a map that's actually got a little bit of a bar scale there. So let's do the calculation and let's make sure we get it right. We want A. So you can see that it's 2,6 plus 0,9 because we converted it to meters plus 1,5. We get the answer that this whole section is 5 meters long. Now, if that wall was 5 meters long, Abram, what would this whole wall be on this side? What do you think? Can we have a skew house?
No.
No. Look, this has got a 90 degree. That's got a 90 degree. You don't want your houses to be not built with 90 degrees corners because unless they're round, they're going to fall over. The strength of your house, your foundations and pillars is based on the fact that you've got these columns in place and there's all sorts of forces involved. So we recognize that this is a square or a rectangle, pretty much a rectangle because they're not equal size. So remember that's 5 meters, this is only 4,5. So close to a square, so it means that that must be 5 meters. What we need to do is to find out the length of B. So how are we going to do that? You think about it. You got the idea? Well, I reckon the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add together the 0,9 and the 1,6. So I'm going to say 1,6 plus 0,9. I'm going to say that equals 2,5. So I'm going to mark on my drawing the bits that I've got. This is 2,5. And I know the whole thing is the green bit, which is 5 meters. So I'm going to say let's start with the 5 meters. Let's subtract the 2,5, and it left me with the blue bit, which I can write down is also 2,5 meters. So B, this bit here, 2,5 meters. Okay, guys, I think we've got that one all wrapped up. Let's move on to the next one. This was just the introduction. This one gets practical. Tells us a carpenter wants to buy skirting. That's the stuff that you put around the bottom of the floor to make the meeting place between the wall and the floor look a little bit attractive. So he's going to use this in the kitchen, and he has to deduct the width of the door openings in order to do his calculations. So calculate the length of wood he needs for the skirting. Show all your calculations. So let's have a look at our diagram. Now remember, we have already said that that is 2,5 meters. We calculated that just now. And we recognize that that part there is 4,5 meters. We're not going to worry about the doors. So what we need to do is to add up. In other words, we want to find the perimeter. We want to go from there to there to there, from there to there, all the way around. Doesn't matter that there's a window. The window isn't going all the way down to the door, to the floor at least. Usually windows stop, and we're going to include all of that because we don't know the length of the window. I suppose if you were given this on a piece of paper, you could actually measure it using the bar scale. We're not going to go to that distance. So what's the perimeter? I think you can see that we're going to say perimeter is equal to 4,5 plus the 2,5. So I'm working clockwise around, plus 1,6 plus another 4,5. Now I'm going back up this way. I'm going to get plus 2,6. And I'm leaving out the doors because I was told to, 1,5. So it's kind of a perimeter without the doors, without the 2 bits of doors. Let's put that onto the calculator and see what we get. We're going to say 4,5 plus 2,5, which we worked out, plus 1,6 plus 4,5, and then plus 2,6 plus 1,5. And I get an answer of 17,2. So 17,2 meters. Now, just before we carry on, I always like to check myself. And checking myself doesn't mean doing the same calculation and hoping to get a different answer. That's called madness. What we try and do is we try and say, is there another way of doing it? So an alternative calculation is to say, well, we know that this was 5 meters from our previous calculation. So if I took 5 meters and I took 5 meters on that side, that would give me 10 meters. 4,5 plus 2 times 2 is 9 meters. So that gives me 19 meters. But now I've got to take away the 90 centimeters for the door. So 90 centimeters times 2 is 1,8. Agree? Abram,
Yes.
are you following me?
Yes.
If I subtract the 1,8 meters, okay, so take 19, subtract 1,8, and let's see what it equals. 17,2. Isn't that great? Yeah. I found another method. You see, guys, it doesn't matter what method you use. But as long as you explain what you're doing, and as I said to you, I think it's really a good idea to try and answer something in more than one calculation. Abram, let's go for a break.
So true. As Joanna said, guys, you must always double check and prove you're not using the same method, but also being able to use different methods. But otherwise, stick to the rules also. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back, Awesome Mindsets. Now, taking a look at what you guys are saying on the social networks, we do have Lwazi Dlamini, who's watching and enjoying the show. So a big shout out to you, Lwazi. But John, I have a tweak, which is a tweet question
Yes.
from one of the mindsetters, Fez Naidu. He says, how to calculate the ratio of a bar scale?
Okay, great question. Is it Faiz?
Yes.
Okay, Faiz, I'm going to just erase my working here, just so that I give myself some space. And this is just for you, okay? So if you've got a picture like this one, and it's got a bar scale on it, and you'd like to be able to convert from that, you're going to need to take a ruler. So I've pulled out a yellow ruler here, and I'm going to, first thing that I'm going to do is recognize that that distance, which I'm highlighting now, that distance from there to there, represents 1 meter in reality. So that's 1 meter. I'm going to call it 100 centimeters, because I'm going to use my ruler, which I don't know if you can see, but I'm going to try and hold the ruler steady and say that that's 7 centimeters. So I now have a ratio between what the measurement is, the measurement of that distance, and what it represents. So every 7 centimeters on this diagram, every 7 centimeters. So if I'd use the ruler, 7 centimeters, 21, 28, and a bit more, yeah, it seems to work. Every 7 centimeters represents 1 meter. How can I write that as a simple ratio with 1 as one of the things, the numbers, 1, 2 in the normal form? Well, it's not difficult. What we're going to do is we're going to say to ourselves, let's write a 1 down there. So what do I do? And I don't want units for this problem. I just want to get the ratio. I'm going to put a 1 there. What did I do to the 7 to get a 1? I divided this by 7 centimeters. So what must I do to the 100? I'm going to take the 100 and I'm going to divide it by 7 centimeters as well. And so I get out my calculator and I say to myself, 100 divided by 7 equals, and it gives me 14,2857. I'm going to round that up, off to 2 decimal places. 14,2829. 14,29. Now, that one hasn't worked out. It would be fine to write it as 1 is to 14,29. Not very usual to do it like that. So what we could do is to try and get it into a whole number. And the way of doing that was to be multiplying, but I'm just going to leave it like that and say, roughly, this is 1 is to 14 or 1 is to 15. It's in that region. It's between 1 is to 14 and 1 is to 15. And that's probably because when we originally put this down, somebody's gone and done that to it. Because as you move it, it will change with the picture, as I said earlier. Only when it was where I had it originally would it be in that ratio of 1 is to whatever it is. If you're given this in an exam or test, it's likely that they would measure it so it actually doesn't have decimal places after the comma, but turns out rather to be a whole number. Okay, hope that answers.
Yep.
Any other questions
Not
for
at
the
this
moment?
time.
Guys, get your questions in. Come on. I'm sure you've got them, or at least let us know that you've done the test yourself. There's some great questions on the test yourself, and the bonus is you could be lucky enough to win a calculator as well. You will, by the way, get your results published. So when you answer the question, you will be sent a message after we close the competition for the results. You'll be able to see, hey, I got 20% this week. Next week, I got 40%. Next week, I got 80%. You can track yourself and see how you're improving. Do them regularly each week, and you'll be a winner.
There's just one more question.
Yeah, sure.
All right. It's from Siyabonga Butele. It's from Mpumalanga.
The place of the morning sun or something, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
He says, what is the difference between area and perimeter? Because they seem like the
Okay,
same.
good question. And it's something you mustn't get confused. Remember, perimeter, and we didn't do the whole perimeter in that question. Perimeter starts at a point and it works all the way around the outside. It's perimeter. perimeter. In a circle, we call it the circumference. Now, area isn't one-dimensional like this. Area is everything inside. So I want to change the color. Sorry, so let me do it in a different color. Area is everything that I'm shading inside. And it's calculated in a rectangle like this by using length times breadth. So that's what the difference is. When we deal with perimeter, we are dealing with length plus breadth plus breadth, or 2 length plus 2 breadth, or you can even say 2 times length plus breadth in brackets. It's measured in single units, so centimeters, meters, even millimeters, where area is always measured in centimeters squared or meters squared, or even something like kilometers squared. Okay, so I hope that answers the question, because it's looking at what's the whole surface. It's not just a line. It's a difference between the outside length, which is a straight thing which you can fold out and make a long piece of wire out of it, long, single, or what you would use paint to cover an area. Okay? Makes sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, cool. Let's try and get this part of the question completed. At least it says the carpenter adds 12% to his measurement. What length of wood does he plan to buy? So now, guys, we want to add 12%. Now, I believe in doing things the quick way. So I'm going to show you the quick way of adding 12%. If I had 17,2 meters, and I multiplied it by 1, what would I get? Abram? 17,2 multiplied by 1.
17.2.
If I multiplied 17.2 by 100%, what would I get? 17.2. Okay, so guys, I don't want to get less than what I started with. So what I've got to do is I've got to say I need 100 plus the extra bit. So that's 112. So I'm going to multiply this by 112. That's 112. That's the increase of 12%. Then I'm going to divide it by 100, which will give me my 12%. I've multiplied by 1,12, which is an increase of 12%, and it gives me 19,264. Round off to 2 decimal places, 19,26 meters. 19,26 meters. Okay. Now, here's his problem. The wood comes in 4-meter lengths. How many lengths must he buy? Well, it's not too difficult to see. If he buys 4 of these lengths, 4 fours are 16. He hasn't got enough. He's going to have to buy 5, because 4 fives are 20. And I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to say he needs 4 lengths of wood. You can do your calculator, but I'm moving to try and get the next one. It's 5 lengths of wood. Hey?
Yes.
Did I say 4? No, he needs 5. Because he needs to get to just a little bit under 20. If he gets too much, he's not going to be wasting too much there. Now look at what the next part is. And guys, this is always the type of question that's related to scale. It's related to this type of question. You're going to get asked a cost question involved. So 5 lengths of wood, what's it going to cost? You're going to say the cost is going to be equal to 5 times the cost of 1, and the 1 is 25 Rand 75, 25 Rand 75. And that's for 4 meters. I want 4 times 5, I want 20 meters. So I'm going to do that on the calculator, and look what I get. I'm going to say, clear that? 25,75 times 5 gives me 128 Rand 75 cents. 128.75 cents. Okay. Okay, Abram, I think it's time for the challenge question.
Yes.
Anybody got any answers on Facebook?
Let's
In
see what
terms
they
of,
have.
remember what the question was? We were trying to draw that jumbo jet that Peter and his family were on, and we want to put it onto a page. We want to take the cross section through the wing. We must make sure that it fits onto the page. Anybody got an answer for us yet?
Not yet. I'm sure they're still working on
Not
it.
yet, guys. Come on, we've done so much of this, but let's give you a hint, because I think it's a cool question, and I really want you to see it. So what we've got here is we've got the distance of the wing, which we were given in real terms. This is the real thing, 63,7 meters. And what we've got to try and do is we've got to try and narrow that down, scale that down, 63,7. We want to scale it down onto a page, and we're going to take the page and we're going to turn it in a landscape way so that the long bit is drawn that way, the shorter bit is that way, landscape. We're going to scale it down so this 67 meters fits into a smaller region of only 297 millimeters. Now, can you see? This is scaling down. We want to get it measured all the way down. We're going to scale it down. How are we going to work out what scale we need? Well, I guess remembering that when you have a ratio of what's on the page must become a 1. But remember, this is millimeters, and that's meters, and this must become a whole number. So the first step that we're going to do is we're going to say to ourselves, let's make sure we get the things into the right units. We want to make sure that everything is in the same unit. So 63,7 meters, if I multiply that by 1,000, 63,7 multiplied by 1,000, 100,000, 1, 2, 3 zeros, yes, that's it, gives me 63,700. 63,700 millimeters. And on this side, I've got 297 millimeters. Now, this is what's on the paper, and this is the real. So I'm going to make a ratio out of that. But remember, the rule is you can't just write 297 is to 63,700. You must write 1 is to. So how do we get the 1 is to? Let's do it. Let's write it as we've been given it. 297 is to 63,700. Hope you got that? That's what we've converted. There we go. Now we want to get a 1. How are we going to get a 1 from this? Well, I'm going to write a 1 underneath there. I want a 1 there. So what do I have to do to 297 to make it 1? 297 to make it 1? I simply have to divide by 297. Because 297 divided by 297 is going to give me 1. So if I do that to that side, can I multiply on this side now, Abram? If I divide it on this side, can I multiply on this side?
No.
No. Can I add on this side?
Yes.
I divide it over there, can I add?
No. No.
What if I divide it there,
You
what
must divide.
mustn't I subtract?
If you've divided, you must subtract on the other side. Yes.
No, if I've divided, I must divide.
Divide.
What I do to the one side, I must
Do on the
don't
other
listen to
side.
Abram. He's sleeping. Okay? He was busy chatting up somebody else on Twitter. I'll forgive him for that. But guys, what you do to the one side,
But I
do
said
not
so.
forget. If you divide on that side, you divide on this side. Yes, Abram.
Yes.
You got
I
it.
could say yes.
You sure?
Yes, I'm
okay,
sure now.
let's go. So, what we're going to do, 263. Make sure the units are the same. We have done that. Divided by 297. 297. Now, this gives me 214. Okay? Now 214, comma 478. I'm going to round that off to 2, comma 48, comma 48. Okay, that's not very nice. It's not a whole number. Okay, but remember we had to get the scale that will make it fit. So now, do we round off downwards and make it 214, or do we go to 215? Okay, think about that for a minute. Which way should we go? Should we make it 1 is to 214, or 210, or 220? Remember, we've just got to fit it onto the page. If it's right on the edges, it might not be so big. So we must bring it in a little bit. Which way do we go? I want you to think about that. Very, very important to do this. So let's take a look at our reading again. And we're going to say, if I have this distance, and I'm going to make it 214. I'm going to round it off to 214. I'm going to say my scale is 1 is to 214. I'm now going to say I've got this as 6, 7, 300. Is that right? No, it's the other way around. It's 6, 3. I made a mistake, switched those letters around. So let's correct that. 6, 3, 700. I want to get what that value is. Okay? So what did I do to the 214 to get to 673? Well, there's an intermediate step. And I'm going to do the intermediate step just very quickly. And I'm going to say to you, look at this. I always say to myself, let's use the intermediate step. I'm going to put a 1 over here. And to get to the 1 is always easy. I divide by 214. And to go from the 1 to the 63,700, I'm going to multiply by 63,700. So what did I do? What I do to the one side, I must do to the other. Agree, Abram?
Yes.
So on this side, I'm going to say divide by 214, multiply it by 63,700. So let's see what that gives us. This side I'm okay. This side I want to see how big it's going to be. So I'm going to take myself as 1, and I'm going to divide first of all by 214. And I'm going to say that's equal to, no, not minus, let's just delete that. And I'm then going to multiply it by 63,700. And if I do that, I'll get 297,66. 297,66. Guys, how wide was the paper? Only 297. So can I use a scale of 214? No. Because the picture's going to be too big. I must round up. I must make it, the size of the scale must go bigger. So in fact, I mustn't round down, but I must round up. And the best answer I could do is anything around 215, but even better would be 220. If you said 220, then you've got a little bit of a border around your cross-section of your aeroplane. Okay, guys, any other questions?
Nice one. Yes, there's a question from Loazi Dlamini. He says, what's the conversion factor from inches to centimeter?
Okay, now you will never get asked that on the spot like that. In an exam, you'll always be given a table to be able to do the conversion. But as far as I remember, 1 inch is 2,2 centimeters. Okay.
Okay.
But look it up. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's about right.
So just be sure when you, just to check,
Yeah.
double check.
Double
Alright.
check, Google it. Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, guys, having said that, we're also having some cool competitions that we've been telling you about. They're all on facebook.com/LearnExtra. The last competition, it is the Get Connected competition, where prize is proudly sponsored by Vodacom. There's like 4 Sony Xperia L cell phones and about 55 Rand airtime vouchers. But John, thank you so much.
Thank you, Abram. Remember the draw for those Xperias on Monday.
Cool. Mindsetives, we love you and have a great evening. Learn more and learn extra from me, Abram, and John. It's been an awesome evening. Learn more and get your notes on learn.mindset.co.za. Peace.
feet or little hand, unless you're trying to draw a caricature of somebody who needs to go for a shower, then you might want to draw the head a bit bigger. But we don't generally draw that. If we're drawing a nice sketch, we keep it in proportion.
Yes.
That's right. Eh?
Yes.
So part of that idea is having the right scale. Because you might only have a little piece of paper, but you've got this big person to draw, or you might have a person who stands this high, and you might want to make a statue that is 9 meters high. So you have to change the position. So here's the challenge question. Peter and his family, they got onto a plane, they boarded a plane, and they were off to Disneyland. So there they are, and they flew in a Boeing 777. Now, what I thought would be quite fun is for us to look at this plane. It has given the following dimensions on the Boeing website. It tells us that the wingspan is 63.7 meters. And I just want to clarify, that's from the tip of one wing. So there's the plane, and excuse my drawing. There's the body. So from the tip of the one wing, from this side all the way through to the other side, that's 67 meters. From the overall length, so from the tail right at the back to the nose, that is also 63.7 meters. And then the tail height from the ground to the top of the tail is 18.5 meters. And then it gives you some other interesting data. Tells you that the interior width is only 5.96 meters. I was going to ask how many times Peter could sort of lie down next to himself inside that. Wouldn't be too many, I don't think. But, you know, given his size, we do recognize that he's trying to do something about that. The next thing is the diameter of the whole fuselage is 6.19. So let's have a look now at the next part of the question. It says here, what scale should you use if you want to draw a cross-section of the plan of the aeroplane so it will fit on an A4 piece of paper? So here's my A4 piece of paper, and I want to draw the cross-section. So what does that mean? It means that I want to take a slice through along that white line from wingtip to wingtip through the middle, and I want to draw the picture. So the picture is going to look something like this. It's going to be that, the round diameter for the fuselage, and there's the wing. And what we know, that's the picture that we're trying to draw. What we know is that from this position to that position over there, we're given is the wingspan, the whole length, 63.7 meters. 63.7 meters. And what I want you to be able to do is to take that drawing and fit it onto an A4 sheet of paper. Now, I've given you the dimensions, and the dimensions of the A4 sheet of paper are 210 millimeters by 297 millimeters. You've got to decide, are you going to draw it that way or that way? You want the drawing to be as big as possible, but I would suggest you draw it this way so that you can fit it all in, and you want it to be as big as possible. So it mustn't just be a tiny little scribble in the middle of the page. It must be almost covering the whole page. What's the scale? So that's the question for you to think about. Cool one, eh?
A very cool one. I know the answer.
I just need to also let you know that the seat width on this plane is only 17 inches. So I don't know how Peter managed to fit into that seat. 17 inches, but somehow I think he might have for something like 12 hours. Anyway, shall we move on? And let's not worry too much about Peter anymore. Have a look here.
Hello Hello, Matrix, and welcome to it. This is Learn Extra with me, Abram, and John. We're here to learn more and learn extra on maths literacy. John, how are you?
I'm really well. Guys, welcome to Maths Literacy. You might be expecting to see Peter, but where's Peter? Peter's not here. He's on holiday. He's going on a trip. We'll talk about that a little later. Abram, great to be with you again.
Yeah, same here, John. I see you saying Peter and you are saying Peter.
I'm not
So,
Peter.
you know that-
I'm John. You know that. Well, even though I might look a bit like Peter. you
That's
know.
where your hand was pointing actually, but no, I didn't say anything.
Okay.
What are we doing today?
Okay, so today we're talking about scale, and particularly dealing with scale in terms of plans. Let's make sure we can get this right, because this is not a difficult thing. You've been probably doing it since grade 10, but we've got some great questions coming up, and I hope you'll be interested to see how we do those.
Nice one. Well, mindset is to get you guys started. We have the link notes posted on facebook.com/learnextra. Get on them, download them, or view them. Those are the two options available for you guys. You'll see on the links, we also have the test yourself link, where if you answer those questions correctly, you get a chance of winning this awesome Casio calculator. How cool is that? You need this. Even when you're doing Maths Lit, it's not going to help you on Maths Lit only, even on other subjects. So guys, get entering right now and answer the test yourself questions. But it doesn't end there. If you missed any of our notes, go to learn.mindset.co.za. We also have a schedule there for you guys who've been asking when is what's playing. So guys, check it out.
Great. Guys, remember you need to check on the schedule for Learn Extra Live. So there's a drop-down menu under Learn Extra. Look for the live. Scroll down. You'll find the schedule there. It's the best way to get the notes. Now, let's talk about scale and what we're going to do. We're going to start off by revising different types of scale. So there are different types of scale, and then we're going to work with plans that are drawn to scale. And when we say we work with plans, we're going to find out how big something is on the plan and how big it's in real life. Given how big something is in real life, and compare it to something that's on the plan, say what is the scale. So there are a number of ways of asking questions. But before we get into that, let me give you something practical to think about. Now, Abram, I believe you're a bit of an artist.
Yes.
You like sketching and you like drawing.
Yes.
Okay. Now, with art, you need to have something called perspective. Is that right? Where you make sure that things are in proportion to each other. So you don't draw a stick figure with a big head and little